I'm responsible for Europe, Middle East, Africa and Asia, which means I sell things to people, but don't worry, not today. I've just come from Stockholm about an hour ago because we had an event in Stockholm called Me Convention. So I'm a little bit not quite as awake as I'd like to be. But never mind. How many of you have been to South by Southwest? One. Okay, that's great. Two, of course. Yeah. Well, I think what I'll do, for you, those of you who haven't been, and even for those of you who have, I'll start off by showing you a video, okay, so you can see a little bit what the event is about. Now, as you can see here, it happens every March. This year's March, or next year, March 8th to 17th. And it's been going for 32 years, so we started in 1987. So I think without further ado, let me show you the video, and then you get a bit of an idea what this crazy thing is all about.
Behind every great idea, there are countless points of inspiration. New connections. Innovative visions. Personal points of view. An amazing hook. An unbelievable story. New friends. A new perspective. And the moment when it all comes together. Unexpected discoveries lead to groundbreaking ideas, and it all happens at South by Southwest.
Okay, that was the promo video from this year. I haven't seen the new one yet. As you'll see, South by Southwest really combines a lot of different things. Originally, it started off as a music festival. That was in 1987. And then 10 years later, we introduced a film festival, what we used to be called a multimedia festival. Nobody uses that term, thank God. Interactive festival. In the meantime, there are so many different parts of South by Southwest. We still have those three main festivals, but there's a gaming expo, there's a fashion show, there's a comedy festival. It's journalism, food, everything else. So I think it's kind of become a lifestyle. I don't like the word lifestyle, but that's kind of what it's become because all those things are involved with it. Now, we have about 70,000 delegates who come from more than 100 countries. Bands that play, I don't know, every year we have 2,000 bands. Usually it's about 8,000 submissions for bands who want to play, and that gets taken down to 2,000. They play in about 100 venues scattered all throughout Austin. We have a big outside stage as well. The films take place, I think, in about 12 different cinemas. And actually the film festival is now with Sundance, like the #1 and 2 film festivals in America. I'll show you a Wikipedia slide and then you can read everything in pieces. The great thing is, of course, if you go to the festival, let's say you're from the music business or whatever, which most of you, I am assuming, are, then you will meet people, for example, from the gaming industry, and there are deals done by songwriters who are selling their music for gaming tracks, or maybe you'll find a film producer who's looking for music, or an advertising company. Perhaps rather surprisingly, about 20% of our delegates actually come from the advertising industry. Whether that's good or not, I don't know, but it's just a fact. And for example, I have in the past had advertising companies contact me and say, who made that short film? Or they're looking for someone who is a creative, like a sync person, somebody like that, to hook up with those people. So depending on what you want to do at South by Southwest, there's definitely enough going on to keep you entertained. I think what I'll do, let me just see what other videos we've got here. So let me just shrink this down. Okay, let me just see what this one is very quickly, because this is quite entertaining, I seem to remember. So bear with me. This gives you the history of Austin and South by Southwest.
song massacre. After you stop screaming, they start talking about it.
Whiskey River, take my mind. No better memories ought you eat. Whiskey River, don't run dry.
Besides the whiskey, I think will require a little respect.
The 50s were boring, the 60s rocked, the 70s, oh my god, they obviously suck.
If you could just go ahead and make sure you do that from now on, that would be great.
Of course he had a gun. This is Texas, everybody has a gun. My florist has a gun.
Ew, gross. What do you see? You.
Oh my god!
They're in the business of winning.
I love that video because I don't have to say anything. Okay, off you go. You know. What's really interesting, I think, about that is that some of the venues you saw there, like the Broken Spoke, the Driscoll, what else? Which go back a ways, Threadgills, they've been going for 30 years, the Continental Club, and they're still running, which is amazing, I think. It's obviously not easy anywhere to run a club these days, but I think it's an indication of why Austin has this title, live music capital of the world. It's been like that for many, many years, and hopefully it will carry on like that as well. What you saw, I'll take you just through some of the things you saw there. When they built the new airport, they did something really clever. They kept the old airport and they turned it into film studios, which is why Austin is now the third biggest film production centre in North America. So the first place is Hollywood, then Vancouver, and then Austin. So that was a very, very smart move. What did you else see? Oh yeah, when they built the airport, it was really that point when Austin started to take off and South by Southwest became bigger and bigger, because you could have a lot of direct flights from all over, from Europe and I think various other places to Austin directly without having to change somewhere. Now, if you're planning to go to South by Southwest next year, I was at a presentation yesterday from SAS, and some of you may know they're going to run a special flight to Austin. I think it leaves on the 6th of March and comes back on the 13th. It's not a charter, it's a regular flight, but it's a kind of a strange thing because I think they leave from Copenhagen but fly back to Stockholm. So I'm just mentioning that. I think Norwegian Air also flies directly from London. So all these things have had a very, very big impact. And one of the biggest issues we've had is actually finding enough hotels to put everybody in. Because I mentioned there's like 70,000 delegates coming, which is probably 60-70% mainly for interactive, and then the rest shared between music and film. But the real thing is we also have 350,000 people coming in to watch the concerts. That's a lot of people. And I don't know where people stay sometimes, but they do. So good luck to them. I think what I'm going to do very briefly, I'll probably pop in and out of various things here, but let me show you one thing about... This is actually what we call South by Southwest Week, which it obviously isn't, it's like 10 days or whatever. I'm going to go through very quickly just so you see how the whole festival actually lines up. At the very beginning, on the Friday, March 8th to March 11th, we have really most of the stuff for the startups. Okay, a lot of that happens in the Hilton Hotel. So we have an accelerator program, all kinds of things called startup spotlights. Our accelerator program I think it's been going 12 years now. And I think the companies who have won or got second or third place, the total funding they've raised is like $5.1 billion. That's in the last 12 years, because we actually did a survey of what they actually earn. So the accelerator program is really very, very well recognised. The Wellness Expo, okay, that's something new. I don't know anything about that yet, apart from it's going to be wellness. And then the main trade show here, from March 10th to March 13th, that's really for all the companies, whether you're music, interactive film, whatever. Everybody's in that trade show. It keeps on getting bigger and bigger, which is actually rather strange because most exhibitions are actually shrinking, but this is one of the few trade shows getting bigger. Flatstock is our poster show. So, people who make posters for tours, film posters, whatever, also quite big. This year we've moved the gaming show to the end here, and then marketplaces for people who do local produce. What I'm going to do, if you just hang on a tick, I'm going to go to the last page. Okay, you're seeing this skewed up. I can't really do much about that, but you'll see we have like 25 tracks of programming broken into interactive film, music and convergence. What I am going to try and do though, if I go back to page 2, is I'm going to show you where the music festival actually happens. Okay, so music basically starts on Monday the 11th, Tuesday the 12th. There are some concerts on the Monday. They're usually sort of promo concerts when a brand comes in and is doing an activation. They want bands to play there. But the music festival proper starts here, and it goes right through to the Sunday. Sorry, it goes right through to the Sunday. Are any of you actually thinking about applying to play there? Okay, everyone. Good. Then I'm going to show you one thing very quickly. All this information is on the website, but I'm going to show you this very quickly. As you can see there, music festival applications started on June 25th, and the early music showcase application deadline is September the 13th. What day do we have today? The 8th? And the final deadline to apply is October the 25th. So if you are thinking about doing this, you need to do it sooner rather than later. Let me just go back to my Word document. Yeah, why don't I take you to the South by Southwest website. Now I'm sure some of you have already been on the website, but it is actually quite good to see what else is up there. Okay. All the information is usually broken down. If you go into festivals, for example, let me go to music. Everything's up there. And it's pretty extensive. So what do we have here? Okay, so in 2018, yeah, like I said, 2,000 acts showcasing artists from 65 countries. And what is really important, there should be, here we go, showcase applications. So it's all up on the web. Shows you how to do it. There are $35 fee up until September the 13th. How to submit a showcase application. So it's all up there, right? It's all up on our website. Go back to the home page. Yeah, these are all I showed you the tracks in the sort of vertical PDF, but there you can have a look at them in peace and quiet. This one may interest you, a new track called Camera Business, which I'm sure will be sold out. Like I said, keynotes, which, there's nothing new. Just have a look at them, you've got enough time. Now, I can go on and on and on, but I prefer to actually answer people's questions and then sort of deal with things that you might be interested in. So, even though I can carry on talking about this, while I'm doing it, if you have any questions about South by Southwest, I think you can go ahead and ask me right now, and I'll do my best to answer them as well. Have you got any questions? There you go.
In the interactive, do you include circus in that? I couldn't read very easily.
I guess we could.
I guess we could.
That's a good question, actually.
I don't know. It seems like a lot of fun things. I feel like there's circus in there somewhere.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because what we do increasingly do. I don't know, circus.
People with me.
No, I think it's a very cool idea. The only thing is, where do you do it?
In the street.
Okay, so you mean that kind of. So you're not going to bring an elephant with you? That might get difficult. Especially immigration.
We won't bring elephants, just humans.
Somebody
don't know if you've seen it, hey?
Huh?
Don't know if you've seen it in there, hey?
I don't know. Because people do things like that. Juggling. when I see somebody juggling, I don't go, oh, circus, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that stuff happens all the time. I'll tell you what we have had increasing in the last 3 years, because it kind of ties into that, is like quite big art installations. Okay, so people really like building big installations. There's all kinds of things happening, you know, like some ball throws up in the air and it falls on the floor and it triggers something else off. And we do that stuff in the street, but also in the hotel foyers. I mean, we had really some very cool art stuff. Like we had something this year called Philharmonia, and they do like a VR. They do a VR of Beethoven's Fifth. But it's also, you're on the Voyager spacecraft going through space, so you go from space to VR. So that's kind of like all the kind of visual things, let's call them that, okay? There are a lot of visual things happening which are not necessarily film, and they can be AR, VR, and whether circus would somehow fall into all of that.
I don't know.
Yeah. Like I say, I mean, you know, for somebody juggling, I mean, you'll see that all over the place, yeah.
You know, like fire eating, fire breathing.
Yes,
fire
we've had
breathing,
that.
Things like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Fire things.
We also have this amazing, I can't remember what you call it now. Any physicists here? Boltzmann spheres, I think they're called. So like, you know, you have these big spheres were built up. There's like static electricity going between the two spheres. Well, we had that built up at the entrance of the convention centre. That was impressive. And then probably somebody got arrested. No, so it does happen there. Listen, well, before we take any more questions, you might want to have a look at the Wikipedia page when you get a chance, actually, because it does have a lot of information, what happened over the years, particularly, you know, the development of music, the kind of keynote speakers who spoke there, the history of the whole thing. I mean, some people may know that the time it really took off was in the mid-90s. We had a succession of keynote speakers like Mark Zuckerberg, and then I think Twitter was more or less launched at South by Southwest, and then Foursquare came, and that was really the point when South by Southwest took off in a big way. Let's see what else I can pull up here. But you know, one of the problems is it becomes very difficult to define the event because there's so much stuff going on. I mean, I promise you, every year I go, like, you know, I work on the show, and I've worked for South by Southwest for 16 years. Steven Spielberg was there this year. I didn't know about it. Really? Elon Musk was there, Bernie Sanders. There's a lot of politicians coming in, which I sort of feel, I'm not so sure about that.
So you are bringing the circus?
Yeah, exactly. The circus is in town, yeah. But of course they come to take advantage of all the people in the media there. So there are like 4,000, 5,000 media representatives, yeah, like 300 or 400 TV crews. So people actually come, you know, to launch a new, I don't know, record, CD, whatever you want to call it, MP3 or whatever. They'll launch a film. But there are so many people coming. I don't particularly like the sort of celebrity society. I find it a little bit annoying. And there was a time about 3 or 4 years ago where we had quite a lot of big, well-known bands playing, and I really didn't like that because it took away from the sort of the real ethos of what South by Southwest is about, which is, you know, breaking bands through, right? This year, I think, was the best music festival we've had in about 6 years, because that kind of disappeared. I mean, I'm talking about people like Lady Gaga playing, you know, 3 years as part of I think it was a Pepsi installation. I mean, I'm nothing against Lady Gaga, but it's not really what I'm looking for, you know. So we've had all the big bands, you know, Metallica and Depeche Mode, Jay-Z and what have you. But this year, I think it got much closer back to its roots again, which I thought it was actually very good. And a lot of people said the same thing. Any other questions? Yeah.
I do live film scoring.
Okay.
Just wondering how much the film and the music programs interact, and if there are opportunities for artists who are playing live music to film.
Yeah, there are. They do. Let me go back to that PDF, okay? Let me show you something here. The film sessions generally go up to about here, okay? That's the film conference program. But the films themselves are shown throughout the whole period. So that means the film people do stay in town. Who are you looking to meet?
A mix of both worlds. A mix of both worlds. I really love meeting directors, but also festival programmers for opportunities.
Well, my experience, I'm not really an expert on film, right? But my experience has been that most of the film festivals are there in some capacity. Probably not the Cannes Film Festival, but Berlin, Locarno, Montreal. Some of the major sort of independent film festivals, they're all there from that side. I think increasingly, we have the big studios showing stuff, Netflix, HBO, Paramount, Universal, Warner's, they're all showing stuff. And we have a lot of premieres coming in now at South by Southwest. So in a nutshell, yes, you're going to meet a lot of those, film people there. But the reason I ask, because if you're looking for like Sync, for example, the place you're going to find them is on the conference sessions. There aren't. I don't think we don't have a particular Sync summit or something like that, But maybe one of the things I would say about South by, if you are planning to come, you really do need to plan your time there, because I've been going for years. I just find it like, oh my God. So you really need to sit down a week before and go through the conference program, go through the music festival program. One of the nice things about our music festival is we don't, list big acts in big letters. They're written in the same font as some unknown band from Buenos Aires, all right? So you really have to look through the program and you go, really? Metallica? Is that right? So yeah, those people are there. But I think, it's also, what kind of film are you looking for?
Silent film.
A silent
I guess
film.
From a programming perspective, I'm wondering, do I apply through the film or do I apply through the music? Because I'm doing both.
Okay, have you got music already for the film, or are you looking?
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
What's the film about?
Different parts of Canada, different parts of the US, people, place, the human experience.
Ah, that's cool. How long?
All short films.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
Let me have a look and see if I can dig this up. Okay, let me go back to the South by South, because we have different categories of film, okay? Let's see, conference. Let's just actually put short film in here.
Because it's always hard to know whether I should be applying for the film or for the music, because it's always hard to apply for both.
Right, well you see we've got all these different categories, right? I'll click this one in a minute. We've got even high school films and whatever. But I'm going to click on the short film. And that's really why, oh look, there's a video. I've not seen this one. Can I play it? See what? There you go. Never seen that before. October the 18th. Look, when you go onto the website, there's a whole FAQ section like how to apply. Let me see if I can find it. Actually, no, maybe it's all there. Oh, sorry, let me have a look.
How would we find out about specific people to speak to about that style of programming?
Okay, what you're going to have to do is we usually get our delegates up on second week of January on all the conference sessions. And I do this, right, I take a week going through all the conference sessions, looking what's going on, and you just have to do your homework. But it does mean that, you can walk into a room and there's going to be Spike Lee or Morgan Spurlock or, we've had all the major independent, they're there, and everybody's very approachable, and you could actually meet people in the conference session. That's what I think is the best way to meet people.
My specific question, though, is how can I reach out to the people who are programming the showcases for that type of medium? Is that happening at South by Southwest?
Well, you're going to have to look on our music schedule to find what programming is. Okay. So it's all online.
Yeah.
So it's not something we can do, you have to do it.
Yes,
right?
I get you.
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. I just wanted to find
But again, have a look through all the, when you register, you get a login and password, and you can do a lot of research. So, if you put in a filter, I don't know, we don't really do silent films, but short films, for example, if that's really your thing, and it will bring up all the conference sessions, all the short films, all the presentations, then you'll see who's going. And that's probably going to be the best way to find who you want to meet.
Thank you.
Sure. Yeah.
What's the criteria for bands or musical acts that you look at for picking out music bands for the South by Southwest?
Yeah, it's a good question, because the thing is, basically, what we try and deter, particularly from outside of the US, is bands who just don't have enough track record, right? So if you've played 5 concerts, well, you probably shouldn't be going to Texas, yeah. If you've got 3 albums out and you've done like 100 concerts and you've played in 5 countries, and you've got a plan to, to do something in America, then it makes it worthwhile. And when I say doing something in America, that comes back to what kind of visa you're going to apply for. I mean, technically, you can travel to America on a waiver program. Okay, so you don't have to get a visa. It depends what else you're going to do there. And I'll give you a very, very good example, right? The people at the customs points, Chicago, New York, Atlanta, they know about South by Southwest. They're generally cool, but, we've had instances where musicians turn up and they say, what are you doing here? Oh, I'm going to play a concert at South by Southwest. Now, officially, you get a letter of invitation sent to you. That letter of invitation declares that you are not doing a paying concert, i.e. you're not working, okay? And then the customs official will say, are you doing any other concerts? The person answers, no. What's the name of your band?
Yeah.
And they'll pull it up. And I know of people who have been sent back because they have other concerts which are paying money. So if you want to do that, and I would do it, is if you're going to go to America and play a gig after South by Southwest, make sure it's afterwards. Just don't announce it on your Facebook or your social media or whatever. Just don't announce it until you get there. And even then it's a bit dodgy. So there have been people sent back because of that.
It's called a B4 visa, if anybody's interested.
Yeah.
Okay.
The P2 visa is if you're going to have paid gigs. B4 is showcasing.
Correct. And on top of that, if you apply for a performing visa where you can go back to the States, I don't know, is it 1 year, 3 years? I can't remember.
You can maximize your P2 for 1 year.
Yeah. So if you apply for a 1 year visa, that's going to cost you what, $1,000?
It's around 1,000 for
1,500 now, yeah. So I mean, I personally think, I think if people, I used to manage bands, I used to do tours, right? And I think if people are serious about going to America and actually, this is the first of like 3 or 4 trips you're going to make in a couple of years, I would go properly further. It's a P2, isn't it?
P2 is the paid.
Yeah, I would go for that.
Yeah.
But you don't have to. But if you don't, and you go on the waiver program, make sure you're only doing your South by gig and not doing anything else.
If anyone wants to learn more about that, I just did that for the US, so just come and talk to me.
And don't trust companies that sell the service. I think rather speak and do it yourself.
Yeah.
Be as honest as you can and rather let them decline you there than you get there and waste all your money.
Yeah, and one thing I'll say very quickly, I'm going to come back to the other people in a minute with your questions. One thing I'll say is there are embassies who are more helpful and embassies who are not that helpful, right?
And people at the embassy.
And people at the embassy, yeah.
There are a couple of really good contacts.
Yeah.
At the embassy and stuff.
The Danish one in Copenhagen is also awesome.
Yeah,
yeah, good.
Fantastic.
This is the thing, so I also say to people, if you are in any way associated with, we have delegations from countries, right? And if you're part of the Danish delegation, whatever, and there's some kind of, City of Copenhagen or, the Danish Music Export Office or people like that involved in the whole thing where you're playing, that makes it much, much easier.
I just wanted to say, since I'm working with Stockholm Music City, where we're connecting everybody, one of the great things that you were mentioning there, the Scandinavian Airlines flight and the Scandinavian Airlines that you might know supporting, we found exactly that those who were on the flight together and those who all came together, and as you say, because we had the delegation from Business Sweden and Stockholm Invest, etc., no one had a problem.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, Scandinavia's coming.
It's usually people who get clever, right?
Last time they came was fun.
Yeah.
But on the SAS flight last year, there were people even doing a concert in the plane.
Yeah.
Which is nice. Yes. Sorry,
I have a question regarding where you apply from, because when you apply, you put where you're from, right?
What are you talking about now on the South by Southwest application?
Yes, South by Southwest, yes. And I live in Sweden.
Yeah.
However, I have dual citizenship, and so I have American citizenship as well.
Right.
Would I benefit from putting Sweden as my
no, I don't think so.
for America? Because I feel like if I put America, I can do other shows around.
Yeah, of course,
right?
you can.
Because then I have a right to work there.
Yeah, absolutely. So put your American citizenship.
Okay.
Most likely also get more accepted.
Yeah.
I just wanted to follow up kind of the question that was asked earlier about criteria and obviously I get what you're saying. If you're relatively unknown in your own country, you haven't paid very much to release anything, maybe don't apply. But what's the sort of opinion on the sort of more DIY ethos? If you are like a working artist who's performed, in different countries and it's your own one, you do well in your own country, but you don't have like a team in place, because I know that's something that keeps cropping up.
Well, look, I mean, I actually personally, because I like sort of going to gigs and seeing new bands, that's what I love to do at South by Southwest. I've seen so many good bands who aren't known, right? I say to people from Europe or outside of America, don't apply unless you've done this and this and this. Simply because there's a lot of money to go there, right? It's a lot of money. I mean, staying in a hotel, flying there, etc., etc. That said, I do know, I think it was the English band The Darkness. They went one year and they stayed with local people in Austin. Did some gigs, the first year. They came back to South by Southwest the second year, and I think they picked up a deal on the basis of having gone a second time. And I think that's an important thing. Personally, if you've not been to South by Southwest before, I would actually go the first year and just look at it. Find out where you want to play. There's 100 venues, I mean, I say that because, the venues obviously are broken down according to genre. So, if you're a world music artist, you're going to play in a world music venue. If you're heavy metal, you're going to play in a heavy metal venue. There's not much choice in that area. But let's say if you're an indie guitar band, well, okay, which one of those 12 venues that exist would be the best one for you? And I think if you go and prepare yourself, like doing promo, for example, there's no need to bring stuff with you. Get it printed in Austin, or, get in touch with the radio people who are there, the TV people, just from Austin, And I would do all that homework, and then if I was a solo artist, if I had a band, then I would go to South by. And also, you're going to go to parties, there's a lot of agents there and what have you. And I think if you go one time on your own and meet those people, it's going to be much, much more helpful when you do actually decide to apply. And in that time, maybe you've done more gigs, whatever. The only thing I'm saying is if nobody knows you here, how are you going to sell yourself there? I mean, if you've got a book of, PR clippings that big, it makes life much easier. One of the interesting things on that note, we always have big features in the New York Times, and they're usually about, I wouldn't say odd, that's not the right word, but they're kind of like left of centre stuff. So there's like a sort of experimental composer called Hauschka. He got like a page in the New York Times. We had stuff on Icelandic indie guitar bands, a black rock group from South Africa. So the unusual gets written about. So if you are unusual and you do unusual things, people will come and check you out. That's my experience, Anybody else? Yeah.
The comedy part, is that comedy with music, or is that more stand-up?
If you want to do it with music, you go right ahead. I don't know. We have all kinds of comedy. I mean, just put something in. Check it out. If you go in, we have a YouTube channel. Put the comedy the last few years in and see. It's not with music. Most of it's just stand-up. But it's a good idea. I like that. And if you talk to her, you do circus and music and comedy. Then. Anybody else? Yeah.
When you said about doing your promotional stuff down there and like actually sending your information down there to do posters and stuff, so you don't have to take that with you.
Yeah.
Is there like a hub that they put through South by Southwest to like recommend what companies are doing?
Yeah, we do. We actually have like a page of printers and merchandising companies who we actually recommend. I mean, look, if you want to bring the stuff with you, fine. I'm just saying, it's more to do with you're Canadian, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it's not the same issue as somebody who's coming in from, let's say, Australia or from Europe.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are instances of people, bringing boxes of flyers and it gets lost, blah blah blah. Well, you could have had them printed in Austin,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Save yourself a lot of money and make sure that they're there, And of course, there are a lot of people now who run PR agencies down there who'll do promotion for you. Again, I kind of think if you're going to pay somebody $5,000 a month, you better have something pretty good to say, right? Yeah. Because you can probably... I think actually one of the best things, like I say, is going there and meeting local people, friends. That actually plays a really, really important part of it. We have a housing program at South by where people actually stay with local people. You don't have to stay in a hotel, which is great. That was what The Darkness did, stayed with people in Austin, stayed with the same people. And then when they became well known, stayed with the same people, just because it was fun, Anybody else? Well, I can't really think of much more to say, so I mean, I can show you endless videos and stuff, you know, but I hope you do manage to come. I've been going since 1989. I have this PDF brochure. If anybody wants, I can try and send you a copy of it. But it's really about, you know, the trade show and advertising and stuff like that. So unless you're really thinking about taking a stand, I wouldn't bother. But I think one of the most important things, like, you know, if you're from Canada, there are several delegations going from the city or from the, you know, the national basis. Apart from Canada, is anybody else from outside of America? I mean, apart from Sweden, of course. Where are you guys from?
I'm from Sweden, Estonia, Finland.
Okay. So you probably come with the Finnish Music Export Office or Swedish Music Export Office, or?
Well, it depends who is giving us a better option.
I like that. Absolutely. Goody. You're from Scotland?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we've had a lot of Scottish bands in the past have done very, very well.
Yeah. Every year it's so exciting to see, because the Scottish music scene is really small. So
Yeah.
I think I know pretty much every Scottish band that's played it in the last couple of years. And
Yeah.
it's always so exciting, like, to see them all go off and do it.
It is, and I think really Scotland and Ireland are the two cases where you really go, okay, there's many, many more bands from those countries compared to others. I think one of the, I'll tell you a funny thing, is there any Norwegians here? Okay, you're a Norwegian, okay. Somebody told me, for example, that one of the reasons that the Norwegian bands go to South by Southwest is because they know that NRK television and radio are going to be there. So they go all the way to Austin, they play a gig, they get filmed, the local newspaper writes about them, so when they go back to Norway, everybody knows who they are, which I think is pretty funny. Okay, well look, thanks ever so much. I mean, if you see me walking around, grab me if you want to have any other questions, whatever. I don't know how much time I'm supposed to be talking yet. Does anybody know?
20 more minutes.
20 more minutes? Oh, God. Shall I tell you about my festival I just did in Stockholm? No, like seriously, just come and grab me, okay?